Hello, my name is Matthew Armstrong, and today we're going to continue with the Meaning Focused Output Strand and look at other activities you can use to develop speaking with Meaning Focused Output. So, we're looking at the activities pair conversation and role plays. Okay, so we're revisiting our chart of the four strands. And today we're looking at meaning focused output, and we're looking at these two activities to develop speaking. Okay, so sometimes there's some confusion about a role play. So, what is a role play? This is an activity that two, sometimes three people participate in, and they act through a familiar situation. Normally, you pretend like you have another role, as in you're another person. So this could be, uh, well, you could be the same, but your partner could be selling food to you at a market. So the role play could be about asking for how much the vegetables cost, and then selling the vegetables. One person is taking on a different role. Both of you might take on a different role. For example, if one is a doctor and one is a patient. Um, so role plays are a good way to uh, just change the situation and practice oral output, um, short section. So role plays are a good way to uh, quickly practice specific useful phrases in a short, familiar situation. And because the situation and dialogue will be relatively short, it can be practiced and repeated. Pair conversation, pair conversation is more about friendly conversation. So the majority of speaking that we do in our daily lives, it's about establishing and maintaining friendships or relationships. So what do we talk about with other people? We talk about our weekend, the weather, how things have been going. We might tell each other stories from our past. And that's all to build relationships and maintain them. And um, those topics will predict. I mean, you choose a topic like the weather, and you can imagine what vocabulary there would be. So, practicing topics is a good way to uh, recycle the vocabulary that you've learned. And just like the role play, pair conversations will be relatively short, so you can repeat them. Now, in the beginning, when you start learning a language, you will have zero knowledge. Or if you know Spanish and you're learning something like Italian, there will be some transfer, as in you will be anticipating what words might be, um, or you might directly use words that you know in another language that's similar. But if you're an English speaker and you're learning Chinese, there's not much that you can usually rely on. So if you don't have the vocabulary for a given topic, and you don't have the sentences, if you don't know what to say, then you can't practice this. So when you're starting off, you'll need to begin with the language-focused learning strand. So you'll need to spend some time with learning sentences and memorizing some dialogues. Once you've done that, once you've got about 100 or so phrases, words, sentences under your belt, you can participate in several different familiar topics and practice several short dialogues. Now, these two activities, role plays and pair conversation, they need to be repeated. You need to keep track of how many times you do this. So in the first time that you practice a role play or a pair conversation, you need to do it about 3 times in one session. That session needs to be repeated at least 4 or 5 times before it's relatively automatic. Now, if you're not sure about how to structure or plan a role play or pair conversation in your language learning program, these steps will give you an idea of how to best start that, how to do that the first time. So step one, you need to have a partner, really. If you don't have a speaking partner, then you need to do the prepared talks activity. So the prepared talks can be done with routine dialogues. You would just have to do the dialogue yourself, or it could be a short talk like an introduction to yourself, introduce yourself to another person. But if you have no partner, then do the prepared talks activity. That was the previous video. If you do have a partner, the partner could be another student who's learning just like you, or it could be a group of you, or it could be a native speaker, or it could be a teacher, like a one-to-one teacher maybe. If you can find several people learning what you're learning, use them. Every once in a while, you can ask for a native speaker friend to come and listen and give feedback. Now, a native speaker friend is not likely to give you feedback. They're not likely to correct you unless you ask them to do that. So I would recommend, once you have someone, regardless of who it is, you have a conversation partner, you do step one. You set up a meeting time. Once the meeting time is agreed upon, you need to do step two. So you need to talk to the person about what topics and what dialogues you'll do. And you should both, at least when you're starting learning, you need to know what those dialogues are so you can prepare for them. So I would aim for at least for 2 or at least 3. So 2 or 3 dialogues that you're going to practice. So that it could be pair conversation about friendly talk, or it could be a role play, like in a familiar situation. So before the Skype or Zoom session or meeting up for a coffee and practicing language, I'm on step 2, the first step of step 2 actually. So you've prepared, you need to study up everything that is in the dialogue. So you do the memorized sentences and dialogues activity in the language focused learning strand, memorize what's in the dialogues. And then when you do the speaking, with your partner, number one, you need to practice it one time. So after you practice doing that once, you talk to your partner. If I'm practicing Arabic with a friend of mine, and my friend knows English and is also learning Arabic, then we'll take a break and we'll talk in English about how we did, what we think we could do better on, did we make any mistakes? So we're giving each other feedback. So you do step 2 of number 3. So next, you want to repeat that. So you want to repeat the conversation again, give each other feedback again, and then do it one last time. So 3 times in total you've practiced the conversation and you've given each other feedback at least 3 times. So that's one session. Now step 4 here, you need to make a record of this first instance of doing the dialogue. If you do it just once, there's a good chance you're going to lose a lot of what you've gained in that one session. So you're going to need to keep track of how many times you do that. So in another session, you repeat the conversation 2 or 3 times. The next session 2 or 3 times. So after 4 or 5 sessions, you should be very automatic with and familiar with these with the language that's in the pair conversation role plays for a given topic or situation. Now, this is just to give you an idea of how to keep track of different conversations you've had. So, if so, these topics, by the way, I took this chart from what every EFL teacher should know. This is a very good book. So, if you're a language teacher, I think this is, in my humble opinion, I think this is one of the most important books for any language teacher to read. And if you teach other languages, then the EFL part doesn't matter too much. I believe Paul Nation got this topic. It was either created from or taken from this book here, Teaching in Difficult Circumstances by Michael West. That book is from 1960. I could not find a copy of that book, so I wasn't sure how to give credit, so I just added both. Okay, so how do you keep track of the topics? So if, for example, when we were, let's say we did a pair conversation and we practiced that a total of 3 times in the first session. So here we were just talking about our family, so friendly chat about our family. So I just described how many brothers and sisters I have, my parents, what my parents do, or do I still have grandparents? Do I have any children? So describing the family, talking about the family. So whatever conversation I just had, I did it in one session. So I'll put a tick mark here or a check. And then the next session you do, the next time you're speaking, you repeat that again. You don't have to go straight through the list. All this is it makes sure that you go through on 5 different sessions all of these topics. So it's not the end of the world if you don't do all of the topics. The point is that you are making sure that you repeat a topic, repeat a conversation, repeat a role play a minimum of 5 times to increase the chances that you're learning through your meaning-focused output. Okay, so in the prepared talks video, I gave a demonstration of how to do a speaking activity, how to prepare for a speaking activity, and how to get feedback on that. So I hope that you found this useful, and if you're a language teacher, then you need to make sure that you plan these activities for the students and ensure that they repeat those same conversations at least 5 times. Okay, thank you.